When the world first noticed 3I/Atlas, it was nothing more than a smudge of motion beyond Neptune, a faint interstellar drifter whose path seemed destined for a quick, forgettable wave as it slid through our neighborhood of space. And for a little while, that was all it was, a cold, silent visitor from the dark between stars, tagged by the Atlas survey the way astronomers tag countless other rocks that wander too close to our telescopes. It carried the same aura of mystery that had followed Oumuamua years earlier. Fast, oddly reflective, and alien only in the boring sense that it came from somewhere else. But boredom did not survive the first detailed look from the James Webb Space Telescope. Webb's infrared, I caught a subtle kink in the trajectory. Less than 1/10 of a degree, so small that it might have been dismissed as noise if it had come from something ordinary. Yet at interstellar velocities, a change that tiny is the cosmic equivalent of turning a steering wheel on a highway. You don't drift into a new lane by accident unless something pushes you there. In the pre-dawn quiet at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, the alert chimed through the data feed, and the room filled with the kind of fast, brittle focus that only happens when a number refuses to be explained away. Orbit models were rerun, then rerun again. Each time the math returned the same cold answer. The object was no longer on a harmless flyby. Its new heading intersected the inner system on a line that, if left untouched, would bring it uncomfortably close to Earth. Dr. Ellen Norwood, one of the first astrophysicists to review the packet, went live to the International Science Board with a voice that tried for calm and failed at the edges. Objects of this scale do not alter course without being acted on, she said, and there is nothing in that region of space. No planet, no dense debris field, no known gravitational trick, capable of producing such a turn naturally. Her statement hung in the air like frost. Across the world at China's Purple Mountain Observatory, Dr. Huang Li's radar team had already seen the same thing, not as a blur, but as a measured slowing, a coordinated deceleration that fit controlled thrust better than any tumbling, outgassing comet. It's as if it's steering, someone murmured, and the sentence spread through control rooms the way a dropped glass spreads shards. Within hours, NASA, ESA, and CNSA convened a tri-agency emergency call, cross-checking Webb's infrared results with Hubble's optical data and ground-based tracking from Chile. The verdict came back unanimous and surreal. 3I/Atlas was not behaving like a drifting rock. It was behaving like a target, choosing where to go. For the first time in recorded history, humanity faced an object from beyond the solar system that appeared to adjust its behavior as if it possessed awareness or intent, and even the most cautious scientists found themselves stuck between words. They refused to call it alien because that word carries so much baggage it might as well come with a soundtrack, but they could no longer call it natural either. Every fresh packet from Webb widened crack. High-resolution scans revealed patterns under the icy crust, repeating geometric alignments, lattices of straight lines, and right angles that looked less like random fractures and more like design. SETI pivoted listening arrays and began combing the radio spectrum. They did not find a voice. They found rhythm, low-frequency pulses repeating at exact intervals, too regular to be cosmic noise, too deliberate to ignore. At ESA's Signal Analysis Division, Dr. Matteo Ricci watched the waveforms loop with a growing chill and said what everyone was thinking, but no one wanted to be first to say aloud. It was not a natural echo. It was structured, almost like code. China released enhanced imagery of its own, showing sharp-edged formations radiating in uniform directions beneath the crust, hinting at something mechanical camouflaged under kilometers of ice and rock. Then a whistleblower's leak added fuel to already growing fire. Classified propulsion data indicating the object had reduced its speed by nearly 12% in 2 weeks. No inertial rock can do that. A deceleration so smooth and sustained requires control, and control implies capability. Social media snapped into panic and triumph at once, rocketing hashtags like hashtag ATLACE approach and hashtag alien vessel to the top of every feed, while governments issued stern calls for calm that sounded less like reassurance than like people trying not to imagine the worst. Inside the Pentagon, a classified task force, known as Sigma 7, assembled with a directive that read like science fiction stripped of humor. Prepare for contingency plans for both impact and contact. Leaked documents later showed that the adjusted trajectory skimmed Earth's orbit within roughly 0.03 astronomical units, dangerously close in celestial terms, and independent astronomers, unburdened by diplomatic caution, confirmed what officials try to keep quiet. The course correction was directed, precise, as if using gravitational slingshots to reposition itself deliberately. The math fit no propulsion system humanity knew. Theorists split into camps, some proposing exotic engines, dark energy manipulation, space-time curvature tricks, gravitational lensing drives. Others cautioning that any hypothesis was premature because nothing in our experience mapped onto what we were seeing. Yet the public did not wait for caution. As usual, the empty spaces in knowledge filled with story. Historians and archaeologists dragged old Sumerian tablets into the spotlight, pointing to myths of a sky stone bearing the mark of the Anunnaki, said to return from the stars in the same region of Lyra that 3I/Atlas had come from. In Iraq, where excavations around the supposed tomb of Gilgamesh had long drawn fringe speculation, people began stitching eerie parallels between ancient star maps and the object's vector. Conspiracy channels swore it was an arc of gods returning to judge or awaken humanity. Religious leaders called for prayer. Governments tried to suppress disinformation, but each attempt to press the lid down only seemed to make the boil louder. Webb kept watching. One evening, its thermal sensors detected internal heat signatures pulsing from within the object. The pulses were not random anymore. They had cleansed themselves into rhythm. Signal analysts noticed the intervals matching prime numbers, a pattern SETI researchers have long treated as a possible universal handshake of intelligence. Worse, better, depending on your appetite for wonder, the pulses began synchronizing with Earth's magnetic field. Planetary magnetometers registered oscillations that mirrored the object's beats. It was not merely broadcasting into emptiness. It was timing itself to the planet like a drummer locking into a heartbeat. Norwood described the moment with the kind of brittle awe that makes a scientist sound almost devotional. "It's aligning with us," she said. "Every pulse is timed to our magnetic heartbeat. It's learning." AI decoding efforts spun up across NASA, CERN, and Beijing, chewing through the data until a strange clarity emerged. The message wasn't language, but mathematics, geometry, ratios, fractal sequences tracing physical constants. Pi, E, the speed of light. It was speaking in the only tongue that does not need a shared biology. Projection models followed. If it kept its velocity and angle, it would reach Earth's orbital path in about 186 days. Late next spring, it would pass close enough to see with the naked eye, a moving star against the velvet static of night. World leaders, realizing the moment had already escaped containment, formed Plan Aurora, a unified strategy blending communication, planetary defense, and constant observation. Quietly, its hard-edged appendix included strike contingencies using nuclear-tipped interceptors, though few believed such measures could stop a thing that could change course at will. As Webb's imagery sharpened, a thin luminous wake appeared behind the object, filaments of plasma bending in ways magnetic field shouldn't. The trails looked uncannily like exhaust, but they defied our physics. Private space companies joined the surveillance web. Emergency satellites launched to triangulate position, and every dataset arrived stranger than the last. The object began matching Earth's orbital speed, slipping into parallel motion like a predator or a student, shadowing prey. Then, on a quiet Tuesday, Webb recorded an energy burst roughly 400 times stronger than anything prior. For 4.2 seconds, instruments went blind. When systems rebooted, 3I/Atlas had shifted again, about 0.02 astronomical units closer. The spike had erupted exactly as Webb focused on the core. The implication was almost insulting in its intimacy. It had reacted as if it knew it was being watched. Movements across Earth split into camps. Some called it an omen from prophecy. linking it to the book of Enoch or sons of God, returning from the heavens. Others saw only impending catastrophe. Still others, the growing middle, felt a raw, trembling curiosity that no narrative could fully domesticate. Ultimately, the truth outpaced politics. In a rare joint broadcast, the UN Secretary-General told humanity what it had already half understood. They had confirmed the object was under intelligent control. They did not know by whom or what, and they were preparing for contact. When Mandarin, English, Arabic, Spanish, and dozens of other languages echoed that sentence across television and phones, the world entered a new era in the space of a breath. Webb's next detailed pass peeled back more of the shell, hexagonal voids under the crust, cavities arranged with impossible symmetry, faint thermal fluctuations suggesting internal mechanisms. "It's a structure," Huang Li said flatly, and the remaining restraint in science cracked. "Not an asteroid. A vessel." Silence fell like a cloth over markets, classrooms, parliament halls, and kitchens. 3I/Atlas kept gliding, emitting soft, rhythmic pulses while nations rehearsed the unthinkable. Some scientists held to the idea of benign curiosity. Others warned intelligence does not guarantee kindness, and human history provides no comfort when you are the less advanced party. Then came a narrow-band transmission sharper than any before, aimed precisely at Earth. Global observatories caught it at once. The signal penetrated the ionosphere and poured into NASA's Deep Space Network, and as it decoded, a visual representation flashed onto control room monitors. Coordinates, then a pattern resembling a human double helix intertwined with archaic symbols. At the end, a short code blinked in sequence. 3-1. The feed went dark, and for a heartbeat, there was only the static of disbelief. Then the speakers filled with a faint sound, not noise, but a voice, mechanical, modulated, yet eerily familiar. It repeated in an ancient cadence. The seed returns to the soil. And then silence. In that sentence, terror and wonder braided together. If it was metaphor, who was the seed and what was the soil? If it was literal, what on earth did this intruder recognize as its origin? The night after that first contact was unlike any other. Cities stayed lit but hushed. Social media raged, yet felt muffled, like a room of people whispering at a funeral for certainty. Astronomers everywhere shifted from discovery mode to comprehension mode. Norwood and Huang Li convened over a secure quantum link with a question that sounded simple because it had no safe answer. Why had it turned toward Earth? And what did the message mean? Seed, soil, growth. Huang Li mused, scrolling ancient Mesopotamian texts. Invitation or warning? Maybe both. Norwood's reply cut like ice. Or it's biological, genetic, something here that it expects us to recognize. Defense forces slid to unprecedented alert. Silos cracked open, interceptors armed, not because anyone knew the object meant harm, but because humanity does not sleep well under a sword it cannot measure. In hidden labs, AI specialists and cryptographers kept digging, finding within the pulse sequences a three-dimensional map of the solar system with Earth highlighted, then coordinates pointing toward the asteroid belt and farther, beyond Pluto's orbit, as if charting a route that included us but was not limited to us. Was it here to pick something up? To return something left long ago? To instruct us to follow? In public, the panic sloshed higher. Millions reported strange lights that turn out to be refracted sunlight off the object's odd surface. Media fed fear. Economies wobbled. Yet behind the noise, a quieter current of awe gathered force. Humanity was witnessing the first incontrovertible sign that intelligence existed beyond Earth and that it was interacting with our planet directly. Webb's thermal imaging kept revealing internal shifts like machinery waking, and infrared spectra hinted at unknown elements, materials more like engineered alloys than meteoritic rubble. Raichi suggested the vessel might be adaptive, capable of self-repair or reconfiguration, which would explain its pulses and deliberate maneuvers. That raised a new dread. If it could respond to its environment, it could anticipate ours. Any attempt at interception might provoke reactions we could not predict. Observation and communication became the only sane path. SETI ramped up